Hello, everyone. Welcome today to the very second episode of this series. My name is Caio Calado. I'm going to be moderating this session, and I'm going to be with you today. I'm just organizing my slides here. So first, I would like to say welcome, everybody. Really excited to be here. I can see that we have many international guests today. So we have folks from Minneapolis, Argentina, San Francisco, Ireland, Amsterdam, Belo Horizonte, BH, São Paulo. I'm curious, like, where is everybody? We'd love to hear and see where you are watching us. So again, welcome to this second episode of this series. As I said, my name is Caio Calado. I'm going to be moderating this session, and I'm going to be here with you. And before I invite the speakers to join us and we start the open conversation, I would like to align and share with you some ideas. Excuse me. So the very first one is about the notion or the idea of diversity. Diversity is a really broad word and is a really broad concept. We could be here speaking about gender, race, nationality, political views, sexual orientations, culture, social class, many different things when it comes to diversity. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more on language and how that relates to conversation design, but you're going to see that all these topics are kind of connected. Also, another thing that is important to say is that diversity, equity, and inclusion, they can sound similar, but they can be different. And it's important for you to understand that. Like, diversity is about everyone being different. Equity is like us offering fair and equitable access to opportunity. And inclusion is mostly about the energy and actions that we take to create environments that respects and value all people. So this series, we're going to try to bring you some ideas about that and how you can leverage these concepts when it comes to conversation design. Another thing that is important to say, I have some event guidelines to share with you. First, we are all humans. We are here to learn. So we would love to help you and have you to help us to do that. So we would love to make this an inclusive, respectful, and opening experience. So we ask you to help us to keep things good or keep the vibe going. Also, please share your questions, comments, or thoughts using the live chat feature. So as I can see, there are many international people here with us. So we're really global this time with many different people from different cultures. So please share your comments, share your opinions, make your comment, bring your ideas so we can see it live and address this, address this live as well. And also keep the conversations going after the event. Feel free to find the speakers, to send them a message, or to connect with everyone that is watching this event live. So for this event, I would like also to remind that everyone here is an ally. You can be an ally too. You can make it a difference also. So we are here to try to bring these topics. We wish to have other people's and hear other opinions. Maybe we can do something like this next year. But we would love to make this a really inclusive experience for everyone. So we are here as supporters and allyship for everyone. So I'm going to stop to speaking now, and let's go to the guests. I'm kind of laughing because my name in Portuguese means shut up, calado. But since you don't speak Portuguese, that doesn't make sense for you. So that's me. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to stop speaking, and I'm going to invite the speakers today. So we're going to have an introduction real quick from each speaker. They're going to tell who they are and where they're speaking from. We're going to have an open conversation and round table. We have some questions to bring to the table, but again, we really want to make this interactive. So make comments, share your questions, and be here virtually with us. And in the end of the open conversation, we're going to have a Q&A session to answer and address some of the comments. And then we're going to finish with some final closing thoughts. And so I think this is it for me. I'm going to stop speaking for now. And I'm going to invite every speaker starting following the alphabetical order. So the very first one is Claire, right? Claire here. Hi. Hello, Claire.
Hello. Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Claire van Leeuwen. My last name means of lions. It's not as cool as yours, Caio. I'm sorry. I'm a linguist and conversational AI consultant. I'm currently based in the Netherlands, and I have a background in theoretical and experimental linguistics, where I focus on pre-verbal grammatical acquisition in Dutch infants. And now I teach Dutch to robots. My pronouns are she, they, should they concern you.
Welcome. Where are you speaking from?
I'm based in the Netherlands.
Netherlands. Perfect. I think we have some friends from Netherlands, right? As well, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if you know them.
People. I see some very familiar faces and names. I see Alice, I see Esha, I saw Krijn. Hi, everybody. So good to see you here.
Our next guest is Flavia.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here. Thanks for the invite. My name is Flavia Alves. I speak from Brazil. My background is in language studies, translation, and nowadays I'm a postgrad student in UX design. And I work as a conversational analyst, so I'm always looking for new data from our users to better their experience. And I guess that's about it. I'm super excited to be here.
Welcome. And last but not least, we have Maaike. Hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm Maaike Groenewege. My last name means green roads, so also not very fanciful, but I'm based in Hilversum, the Netherlands, and I too have a background in linguistics. I'm specializing in the sound stuff of language, so phonology, phonetics, systems, and sounds in language. That was a long time ago, and right now I'm an independent conversation designer and linguist with my own company, Convocat, and I work for corporates, for small startups as conversation designer, as a researcher, and also sometimes as a conversational analyst. So we're kind of in the same area for sure. Really looking forward to being here tonight. I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, but fingers crossed.
Well, in Brazil, we have a saying, hold my hand. So we can hold my hand virtually. Yeah.
Speaking of hold my hands, I guess it's important to share that I guess English is not our first language for any of us. So if we ever say something that sounds disrespectful because we are aware, please bring it up on the chat and we'll correct ourselves.
Yeah. Also, just a side comment about my name. My name means an action. Like I felt quietly. It's like I'm felling quietly all the time. Caio means felt. So I make fun of my name all the time. But that's kind of like a dad joke of myself with my name. But that's it about my name. All right. So let's start to the questions that we have today. So to kick it off, to kick things up, the very first question that we have is about what is the relation between language, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and conversation design? I wonder if someone would like to start with this one.
I could start. I think we can think of language in a broader spectrum for the beginning. So language is not only what we speak or what we write. It's however we express ourselves, our ideas, and how we share with the world and with other people what we're thinking, what we are experiencing. In that way, you have to think of language and diversity as they're walking together, or even if you're not diverse in language can be a factor to suppress people. So we always have to keep in mind, how am I talking to someone? Am I being respectful? Am I judging someone with language? And that can be by speaking to them, that can be by drawings, that can be body language, that can be many things. But when we're talking about conversation design, we are talking about text, we are talking about voice, we are talking about how we speak to people and how we bring representation, how we bring respect and inclusiveness to the table in our solutions is very important. So I think language relates to diversity and to conversational design in that way. But I'm super open to hear from the girls. Excited to hear from them.
That's just, wow. I'm so happy with this opening. Now a lot of the nerves kind of drop off because yes, for sure. And I guess to kind of elaborate on that, as designers of conversational interfaces, language is our design toolkit. It's what we use to actually build our interface. And the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to language and inclusivity is, on a very, very high and generic level, is my interface available in the language of the user? And that is something that's probably for us non-English speakers a bit more familiar. But many of my conversational friends are actually quite surprised when I tell them that over here, we don't get Alexa in Dutch. And Google Assistant in Dutch, well, big kudos for trying, and they do a wonderful job. But compared to English, it's still kind of, there's a lot to be improved. And especially for voice, when you're not able to access a voice interface in your own language, it can actually be really exclusive because it's either in or out. If you look at visual interfaces, even if you don't speak the language, there's still all kinds of visual kind of anchor points or affordances, like buttons that you can try out. You're kind of used to what a website can look like or an app. So there's always some way to kind of try. But with just voice, if you don't speak the language, it's basically not there. So that's where inclusivity definitely starts for me. And we've got a wonderful job ahead for us. That's my 2 cents. What about you, Claire?
Yeah, I kind of struggled with this question because for me, like language and diversity, inclusivity and conversation design is just, it's one thing. It's inherent in each other. You can't do conversation design without understanding or trying to understand language. And you can't do conversation design without thinking about diversity. You can't do it without thinking of accessibility. We're trying to create systems based on the way people speak and how they use language. And the wonderful thing about language is that it's incredibly broad and people use it in so many different ways. But words have meaning. This is going to sound so easy, but words have meaning. They have connotation. If you don't understand what those connotations are or those meanings are, you can, without wanting to, you can really hurt someone if you don't take that into account. And this is basically more of the sociolinguistic side, but I feel like if you want to do good conversation design, you need to look at sociolinguistics.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
I mean, I love this. I would like to bring a perspective on this, Claire. There is a comment here, which I think is really interesting, and it's about what you said. Like, language is a mirror of a culture and society. Is it the way that you're going?
Yeah. I was thinking about like you always have kind of a sort of standard language, like the agreed upon standard language, like what they speak on the news or what your newspaper is written in. But that is not actually how people talk with each other. People talk with each other in crazy expressive ways, and you hardly ever know and hardly can ever grasp like all those wide range of varieties of words people might use, or the different registers or the different accents. That is not caught in that standard language. And if you base your voice assistant or your chatbot only on that standard language, you're missing out on so much of what your language could be, and you're not helping a lot of people because you're not matching to the way they speak and to the way they interact with the world. And yeah, it is a mirror of our culture.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree more with what Claire's saying. We have to be mindful of our place in the world as well. I mean, I think Claire and Maaike are both researchers of this. I'm more on the operational side, so I don't research as much. I just use user data. But we have to be mindful of where you are. I mean, I'm a person here in Brazil living in a certain social way. And there is people inside Brazil or outside Brazil that live in a completely different way and that speak in a completely different way that I might not be aware of. So for me to become a little bit more aware, I have to first be aware that I don't know it. And that's very important for the conversational design, because if you just ignore this, you will not bring representation to the table.
Here, absolutely. And if you look at, for instance, the Microsoft Toolkit for Diversity and Inclusive Design, that's actually their first kind of heuristic, learn to recognize exclusion. And and it can be even in ways that you sometimes don't suspect. For instance, one of the things that struck me is that if you look at inclusivity guidelines, for the World Wide Web, for instance, there's some guidelines on how and whether to use emojis, for instance. And usually the guideline goes something like, okay, be careful when you use them because screen readers can't really handle them really well, so don't use them as the only means of, carrying meaning. But in the meantime, there's a whole generation for whom emojis are actually their primary way of interacting with each other. So for them, that's their language. So it's really interesting to see, okay, what kind of trade-offs do you want to make in your design to kind of accommodate different groups of people that might have seemingly conflicting interests, but in the end, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps we can do some kind of technological innovation that makes it both situations possible. So it's not even, just making one choice and then you're there. It's just something that never ends, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
can I say something about the emojis real quick? Okay, so I like to love to talk about emojis, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, in our Convo Club as well. There's this amazing book written by Gretchen McCullough. It's called Because Internet, and it really goes in depth about why people talk the way they do online. And I can not stop recommending this book to everyone. You just go read it because it really opens your mind that we're trying to make this weird medium work for us. And one part of online communication is emoji. And what I felt was so interesting in that Convo Club discussion we had is that I interpreted emoji very differently from you, Maaike, and we were having this kind of thing like, wait, isn't it just a picture? Doesn't it just mean the picture? No, it's a gesture. She describes in the chapter that it's a gesture in the same way that Italians are quite famous for using gestures when they speak, but they don't just use any gesture. A gesture means a specific thing, and you can only use it in a specific way. And if you then just use that emoji that has been gesturized and has a separate meaning is suddenly used as a picture, it doesn't make sense. Like you can't do that. That doesn't work like that. And so for me, hopefully sometime we're going to use emoji, and we're going to use the emoji in like the inclusive way, in the way the Gen X, Gen Z people and the millennials are using it. Because for me, it's such an integral part of talking online that it feels weird that my chatbots don't.
I agree.
I just love emoji.
And sometimes we do on some products I've been working. We do use emojis, but we have to take into consideration like screen readers and stuff. And what you get from the screen reader is just like the name someone gave to the emoji, but then you have people going crazy on the internet using fruits and vegetables to represent body parts, And how can you say that? Like if I put a peach on as an emoji in my solution, the reader will read peach. And if the person doesn't have that context, she or he won't understand. So we have to be mindful of that as well. But I would love to use it in a way that that we could get context from whoever's speaking. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Like, can we make emojis like multimodal? Something like that.
What
like
is that?
Well, you have the multimodal design and conversation design, where you design not just for voice, but also for text or visuals. So you really take advantage of all the different ways you can show information. And this is just a brain thing that this happens in the Convo Club all the time. I'm sorry, Kaio. Please get me back on track if I'm going way too much off track right now.
That's the goal. That's the goal of this conversation. I mean, let's ask the audience, like whoever is watching us. I think everybody's enjoying this conversation. Like people are making comments here about. So this is a perfect example of the problem with emojis, right? This is what we get.
Yeah, that. So instead of having it be elbow cough, if it's a gestural emoji, we should change basically the entire text as it would be read by a screen reader to really more show the additional message that is added by having an elbow cough in there. Does that make sense?
That's a great idea. I think we should bring this to developers and say, hey, let us give the name whatever we want it to be in the context we are creating. That would be awesome.
On the other hand, Alice is also making a great point that the technology should just try to keep up with us and understand emojis in a way that's meaningful for the users. Perhaps it can translate it to sound or something, little kind of ear cons or.
That I think that's a hard one. Like having technology follow us and be in time, because language is evolving all the time, and technology is evolving in such a fast pace. In a fast pace that even the academy doesn't keep it. How do you say it? I forgot the word in English. Keep it up. Yeah. Even universities and stuff are struggling with keeping up with social media and everything that's coming up nowadays. And every day is a new thing, and we're evolving with it, and language evolving with it. So how can we make it evolve together in a way that we as humans can follow up to set it up? Like, okay, this emoji or this software or whatever it is going to work like this. Yeah, it's going to work like this for like a month, and then the next generation will come and disrupt everything.
I think there's some things in today's technology that I would love to see advance a bit more, and that's especially in voice interfaces. For me, that's still not proper language, like to get back on track and language. Because if we talk to each other, especially us bunch, what we do all the time is we barge in. And it's not just one person barging in all the time, but we kind of create this dynamic, which according to the audience is pretty lively, so that's good. But this is something that we do. We have this sense of when it's okay to take a turn. And that, for me, in technology is still rather static. And, having to invoke your smart speaker all the time. So it's not that I want like the whole world kind of change tomorrow, but these things that might make it a bit more natural even, that would be wonderful, I think. And do you mind if I take one of the questions out of the comments? I can see the question by Nimit. What measures we should consider whilst developing a multi-language conversational design? Well, you got a minute. Gosh.
Who starts? Who go first?
I think Claire could start.
Okay,
Maaike.
With all
because Maaike pulled the question from the chat. I think it's only fair.
Okay. Thanks,
Sorry, Claire.
You're getting thrown under the bus here. No worries. With all my experience with multilingual conversation design, now I think multi-language conversational design and doing it well and doing it good and being in sync with how language is developing all across the globe is, I think, won't be weird to say, really, really, really difficult. Near impossible, I might say. But we can get good at it, I think. But I mean, like, multi-language conversational design, you know what, this comes back to kind of what Maaike was kind of saying. It was triggering something in me. I don't think we're that good actually ourselves at using language. And we hardly understand what the heck we're doing. Like, we know when to barge in, but if you would ask someone to explain, like, why was this an okay moment for you to barge in? I don't think any of us could explain it. So I'm sorry, Naveed, this is going to be my answer. I don't know. It's difficult.
Well, it's
I think if we're I've already observed this, especially in voice. We have a huge interference of English in every language nowadays, because we get English from everywhere, like in movies or even in like commercial places in our countries. They have English names. Music, culture, English, not English as in British culture, but English spoken culture goes global very fast. And that interferes directly with how we approach voice. Because then if we are working with text to speech, for example, and we have the machine for text to speech, and I'm working with Portuguese or I'm working with Dutch or whatever, we have phonemes that are specific to that language. And then we have phonemes that are specifically to English. And whenever you're setting the text to speech up, you're not really thinking about it. You're thinking about the language you're working with and not the interference of English. So you have voice speakers or assistants talking to the users and saying English words in sort of like the native language way, which sounds weird. And sometimes it pertains like products and things that we know, such as, I don't know, here in Brazil, one common, not mistake, but one common misread of a word is saying Apple instead of Apple. So there's a lot of people who say Apple iPhone. And yeah, but it happens. It makes sense to us. It makes sense to Brazilian speakers. So how can we use that? How can we use text to speech in our advantage? And how can we use it to, I don't know, to make a broader knowledge of English? Or how can we incorporate it and make it our way and say, no, Apple is fine. I don't care. I don't care if in English it is Apple. So this is very hard. That's a huge challenge to have. If you're using voice talents and the voice talent doesn't know English, that's a challenge as well. So how can we?
Yeah, same here. I mean, we don't say McDonald's over here. We don't say, hey, ik heb gisteren even lekker gegeten bij de McDonald's. Nee, wij gaan naar de McDonald's. And that's actually, I can completely relate to that. And I don't know about, well, I guess that for Dutch, the other thing is that so many of our words are actually English. So the speech recognition really, really struggles when like more than 60% of my Dutch sentence is English, and then it switches to the English speech recognition. Another thing that I think is quite a challenge for multilingual, I mean, I work as a translator for just content. So just, in this case, the dialogue side, I guess, the fixed content and your fixed answers. But managing your intent over languages, managing all your utterances over languages, managing the characteristics in terms of speech and dialogue in different languages. Like I understood from Caio that your way of conversing is almost like a spiral, and it kind of can go on and on, which is wonderful. But it's different than other languages, and Dutch is kind of to the point, well, not to the point, but pointy, like. And this is also something you need to cater for in multilingual. It's not just the words anymore; it's the actual language that we have to care about. And still, if we don't do it, what happens? Will we end up with everything in English? Hopefully not.
Yeah. But
go on.
Sorry, Coyote. But English. Yeah, I mean, we kind of take for granted that we continuously talk with each other in English, but what we're doing is not native speaker English. No. We're using this weird global amalgamation of Englishes that we use to communicate with each other. And if you then try to use that kind of language, but you have your model trained on American English, with all its beautiful cultural added on it. That's not the way lots and lots of people in the world use English. And so that's something we also need to worry about. Like, you can't just build an English bot and make it work for American English audiences. It has to work for Brazilian audiences. It has to work for Dutch audiences. And we're all going to use it in our weird, special way, where we pronounce things the way you might not have trained for, but it should be able to pick it up anyway. And that's a challenge as well.
I love this because it goes with the standard English you were talking about earlier. And I've been thinking about this for a while now, because we have a mediatic representation of what English is. And I'm sure other languages have it as well, because Brazilians do this. We forget that there is no way to erase accents. I mean, even if you try a standard, you won't erase an accent. There is no such thing as no accent. So when we're working here, we're mainly focused on an accent that's southeastern. And in American English, I noticed that the focus in standard English is more like a California English. And that came to my mind, and it was very clear to me when I was watching, which is very stupid, I know, but I was watching Real Housewives of New York. And I've watched what's the name of the show? How I Met Your Mother, which is placed in New York. I've watched Friends, which is placed in New York, and they do not have the accent of the Real Housewives of New York. So I've been used to the Californian or mediatic English as much as I've been used to Southeastern Portuguese. And then we're ignoring a bunch of people in a continental country, may it be the United States or Brazil, Russia, whatever. We have variation. And how can we bring that to the table? How can we make these people feel seen, feel represented, or even how can we make them understand better the language we are using in our bots, in our assistants, and so on? So that's a challenge as well. But that's something I think we should keep in mind as designers.
I think this kind of brings us to one of the questions that we have. Like, I think we address a lot, like the scenario, like the problem and the issues that we have with this. But maybe one question that we should explore a little bit more is like, how can we deal with this language variety in projects with nationwide or even global audience? So I think the conversation that we were having in like 10 minutes ago, like these past 10 minutes, was a perfect introduction to this scenario. But how can we deal with this at global scale or localized scale?
I think we should bring data to the table, but that's very hard, especially for voice, because we have laws protecting data, which is very important. They have to exist. And then when we're talking about voice, we're talking about biometric data, which is even more sensitive than other types of, or like whatever you text, because you can find out who a person is by their voice. So we don't have access to our user data usually, because it's an opt-in kind of thing, not an opt-out. So you mainly won't listen to your user. Like, you can have Alexa, you can have Google Assistant. Google is not listening to their users because it's an opt-in thing. Users are not giving us their voice. So we have to really think how we can collect this data and make it broader, and not only things that we collect in-house, because in-house is very exclusive as well. We're set, like I said, I'm set in Southeast Brazil. Google is, of course, in Silicon Valley. So the way we think this data and bring it to our projects must be catered to. So you may think I can hire specifically for this job, like people who talk and give me their voice in a way that I can collect that data from other regions. Or you can, I don't know, crawl data from YouTube, which is a little harder because there's a lot of nonsense data around. So that's something to think about. And data has been a challenge. Claire, go.
Yeah,
Claire,
I'm thinking like we're making a huge problem out of something. Like, no, we can't get the data the old-fashioned way we've been used to, but there's this beautiful thing in linguistics called field research, where you go places and you talk to people. So, like, go places and talk to people and listen to what they say. Keep your ears and eyes and mind open, like when you're on public transport, and you'll hear so many beautiful things being said in ways that your data isn't showing yet, but the way that people actually use the language are using. So please go and do that. Go to markets. Go talk to people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this also chimes in with Mary's comment, which she says, I like to say conversation design at its best will be a kind of hyper-localization, free of standard language biases. And that's something that that really resonates with me as a translator. I mean, we have people that specialize not only in language, but also the specific culture of your target audience. Because it's not just a matter of kind of, transferring meaning to another language. It's actually creating a whole new experience in a way, because basically everything is different. And I mean, it's the tone of voice, it's your turn-taking principles, but also cultural references, knowing what is polite and what isn't, what's appropriate and what isn't, how direct your interface can be, or how perhaps more circumscript. And this is something I wonder, do we even need something like translation or localization, or should we just go for unique experiences for each target audience anyway?
Well, I would like to jump on this. I'm controlling myself to don't laugh, because recently in Brazil, I think Flavia is going to get this one. A video about the vaccination got viral, and there is a guy making fun of that, and he created like 80 memes on this like 10 minutes videos, and he became like viral on the internet. And you know what? Alexa now has one of the memes on Alexa, and they did that in less than 2 weeks. And it's basically like it's a question like, are you past? It doesn't gonna make sense in English, but like when you say something to someone and this person is like surprised, I can just ask like, "Tá passada?" Like, Flavia, "Tá passada?" Like, are you surprised? And I can ask this today to Alexa, and she's going to reply me with the specifically the meaning of this meme, and we can understand so many things that I'm not going explain here. But there are so many political and vaccination ideas just with I can show you, like, Alexa, tá passada?
Quem é de verdade sabe quem é de mentira.
And she displays like and it's
lie.
What?
Did she say mentira?
No, she said.
Yeah, she does. She says, whoever is truthful knows whoever is lying.
Yeah, who is telling the truth knows who is telling the lie. Yeah, but that I'm not going to explore too much because it was about the vaccination and stuff. But yeah, they bring that, they put this in Alexa in 2 weeks with the illustrations and everything.
Wow.
You know, Amazon is a huge advocate for memes in Alexa. I'm always in awe of what they do. I don't know how they deal with copywriting with memes or any other thing they use, but I'm always in awe because they're so fast. They get to the point, and it's actually fun to interact with their assistant. Whereas other companies don't do that. They're very strict to their content and to their persona, which bothers me. I like to see light stuff or memes and jokes on conversational design. And something else I would really like to see is different types of persona that grow away from standard language. We don't see personas that are regional, and that would bring so much representation to the table. I mean, we have cases here in Brazil that the drawing persona of an assistant or whatever the brand is making may be regional, but whenever the bot or the character is talking to people, it goes right back to standard Portuguese. And I'm like, what the heck? Why couldn't you regionalize this? Why couldn't you bring representation to other regions? They're so rich in culture here, and we're still fighting this battle. I would very much love to see personas that bring other things to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I jump in as well? Because like we're talking very about like of the outward reach of our bot personas. Like we're talking about our chatbots, how they interact with people. But I think like one of the big games we could already do is recognize the questions no matter how they are asked. And then it isn't even like it should be hyper regionalized or whatever, and we need different personas for each and every person. But it's like at least I can recognize the question of anybody who's going to ask it, no matter how they're going to ask it. And I feel there's already so much value in it for people if they feel like they're being recognized, if they're being listened to. Without having to revert to like a standard way of speaking.
Yeah. And that way, I guess that, I mean, even in such a small country as the Netherlands, I think there's over 200 different accents, 3 formal languages, and quite a lot of dialects. Just being able to say something in The Hague accent and being recognized by a smart speaker and perhaps have a little nudge to, hey, I hear you're from the West. Sorry, don't speak that, but hey, I've got an answer for you. That would be great. Or, I know that, I don't know if Gertina's in the audience, but Frisian, it's our second language. It would be so cool if Google would just say, yeah, sure, I speak Frisian. And then perhaps elderly people, they might want a different tone of voice, perhaps different speed. I haven't done any user research on that, but yeah, look at your data, go and talk to people and see what they want in their conversations. That would be really, really nice if we can actually realize that in our designs as well.
I like that you mentioned elderly people because I've seen TikToks of people interacting with Alexa, like older people interacting with Alexa. And because technology, I mean, if we think about a person who was born in the 40s and is living now in a world that you can FaceTime people and that you can talk to a robot, that's really something else to them. So they don't really know, like, what is a wake-up word? Why do I have to say her name all the time? But that's what I've seen. I don't know. I don't have data on this, but that's what I've been seeing on TikTok. Like people filming their grandparents interacting with Alexa, and they're like, and they just ask a question, and then the grandson goes, "No, you have to say her name." And then they say their name, the name, and they ask the question, and right after Alexa has given the answer, they just continue the conversation. They don't go back to saying the name. So there is something of bringing digital education to everyone as well, so that everyone may be able to use everything and understand how we're doing this, because not everybody understands why we have to have a wake-up word for assistants. That's not something that's brought up to the audience, like, oh, okay, there's the assistant can't be listening to everything you say all the time. You have to wake her up, or you don't have battery time on your cell phone to keep it on all the time. So there is a hardware problem there. There are so many things involved in this that maybe if you just made it clear to the audience, they would make more sense out of the technology. I don't know.
That's a really interesting one. I feel kind of old now because my parents were actually born in the 40s, which makes me kind of in my 40s right now. But it's interesting to see that, yes, elderly people might have a bit of a steeper learning curve, although even that is not always the case. But what research actually shows that they're more tenacious. They're more kind of invested in finding out how stuff works, because everything in their time was difficult. I mean, try playing an old VCR video. You really almost needed an engineering degree to do that. So they're used to finding things out and being patient. And I just gave this Google Nest to my parents, and they just don't stop talking to it. I never use mine, and they're literally the entire day, Google, play old French chanson. And like, oh yeah, cool. And then the entire day, and I'm like, why? Yeah, it's really nice and she's really friendly and it's a robot, right? Yeah, sure, of course we know we pull the plug at night because we don't want to be overheard and blah, blah. But it's just fascinating that my own assumptions about how my parents would deal with this technology were just completely untrue. And of course this is N is 1, right? So it's not representative. But elderly people of today are sometimes not that old as we think.
I would like to, well, I mean, I'm making some notes here. We went to so many different places and we did talk about language, but we did talk with a different aspect. We talk about language as a way of inclusion, localization, translation. We talk about like how difficult it is to keep it up with the language because the language is evolving, like the internet. What is the name of the book, Claire? Because of the internet, right?
Because internet.
Yeah. Also, we talk about like the emojis usage, like they can be great, but they can be hard. Like the elbow cough, cough.
Dabbing.
Which was dabbing.
Sorry.
And then we said also about the words has meanings, and that can also be related to the social and many other aspects of it. So we went to so many different places. We have about 10 minutes. That was fast.
No. You know what? It's amazing that we talked about language and diversity all this time and we did not touch on gender, which is mainly what people talk about in language nowadays. Oh, let's talk gender and neutral pronouns and stuff. And there's so much to talk about language. And I know you have a gender live scheduled, or was it the last one? I don't remember.
It was the previous one.
It was the previous one. So yeah, I mean, people always think, okay, we're talking diversity in language and let's talk gender. That's not all that it is. There's so much to talk about and so much for us to be mindful of.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we finish, I would like to bring some questions from the audience. Maybe we can try to one of you answer each, or one of the. I mean, everybody can answer, but
I'll try.
Like I like to address the many questions from the audience as possible. And also to you that is watching, there are 2 things that I would like to ask you. First, let us know what you think about this live streaming. Say a thank you to the speakers. What do you think about the comments? And also share your questions. Like we still have 10 minutes to go. So we are happy to jump in some of them. Please,
I'm
Maaike.
fascinated by one question. It's again by Nimit. And the question is, what major role does semantic language play in conversation design? And Nimit, would you mind elaborating a little bit on what you mean by semantic language? Do you mean like semantic networks or meaning or... And in the meantime, perhaps we can also find some...
Yeah, there is a delay, like a 30-40 seconds delay between what they're seeing and what the comments that we receive. But maybe Nimit is going to answer us in a moment.
That would be cool.
I don't know if... Oh, meaning. Nimit replied already. So it's about meaning.
Well, if I can just 2 cents or 1 cent and we can share the other cent or something. That's actually my third aspect of inclusivity, to make sure that you actually speak your audience's language, especially as a business. When people ask something in their words, don't try and answer it in your corporate kind of domain model language, like, we've got this application procedure and you need to take step this and that and that and that. So making sure you actually mean the same by the same words is for me perhaps even rule 1 of good conversation design. And I think that your persona and your tone of voice and your style guide can be a great tool for that, especially if you work with multiple authors. Making sure that you all use the same words for the same things, very important. And with conversational AI kind of on the rise, it's also interesting to see whether you can perhaps link your chatbot to other semantic networks that might be present in your organization, like big data banks, so that you can leverage them a bit. But it's all still very kind of sketchy. I don't know a lot of people that do that yet, but yes, there's definitely a lot of potential in there. Oh, that's a bit more than a cent. I'm sorry. I love this topic.
Well, I wonder if any of you would like to address particular questions. I can just be bringing some of the questions, but if there is, like Maaike did, like I would like to jump on this one. I see that Esha, she was with us. So she has a long question, but let me try to make it short. Like, if the sky were indeed the limit and there were no limitations, what is a one linguistic thing you would immediately change about the way we design conversations for voice and bot? I think it's chatbot. Flavia,
Please. If you do remember when Shrek came on DVD way back when Shrek was a new thing and it wasn't, millennial thing, there was a donkey saying me, pick me on the menu. That's me. What I would change is personalization. I would love for personalization to be way better than it is today. I would love for people to be able to communicate with bots and assistants in a way they can recognize themselves, being it in language variation, in accent, in how they speak, according to age, according to gender, whatever. I would love for people to feel like they're making a friend with their bot or with their assistant. That's a very hard thing to do, but that's what I would like to see.
Can I also answer this one? Actually, okay. So my background is in syntax and morphology, so I like structure. That's like my thing. And when I was sold the idea of conversation design, my idea was like, okay, so you understand the structure of language, and then you basically scrape and fill in the plots. And what you need to do is understand the structure of language, understand the structure of how you would form questions and answers, and then have those things filled automatically. I don't know if this is in any way possible, but that was like my idea of conversation design, of the future where we were going. Instead of manually writing everything down, just get like a good ground truth and then have everything filled in automatically. So that is if the sky was indeed the limit. And I think, yeah, you'd have to have the sky the limit for that, because I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I don't know. We can see Google has a new AI in development to make conversation go as crazy as we do. It's called Lambda, but it's very initial yet. So they just brought that out in I/O this year. So we'll see where they go with this. It sounds a little crazy, like starting a conversation talking about cups and ending the conversation talking about planets, just as we're doing right now. But that's exciting. I think Google always brings exciting things to us, like exciting and worrisome at some points.
Can I add a final note to that? If I could change anything in linguistics and conversation design, it would definitely be that, to add a layer of logic and coherence and cohesion to large language models, and a layer of ethics and explainability, because the potential is huge, but with huge potential comes huge responsibility. And fingers crossed for sure. I hope we can still remain the humans in the loop for a long time in that respect.
Well, this was fun. It's an hour. It was really quick, don't you think? It was time just
that
flies.
was too quick.
Yeah.
We should go for another hour, I think.
Yeah.
Can we schedule another hour? Because we had so many questions prepared. I had all the answers written out.
You know what? We should do.
We got like 2 of them.
You know what? We should do the Canva Club. Let's do it. I know. When is the next one?
Let's take it online. Let's take it visual.
Yeah. Do you? When is the next? Do you have a next Canva Club?
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's Thursday today, right? Yeah, the week is just flying by. Yeah.
We'll pick this up for sure, because yes, there's so much more to be discussed. Like, I mean, yeah, we just don't stop talking, do we?
We're language specialists.
And I still saw some really good questions in the chat that I don't think we have time to answer anymore, but feel free to reach out to any of us, I think, and we'll take all the time to answer that question offline or in a Convo Club, wherever.
Yeah. Please find the speakers. You can find that on the YouTube description. You can find the LinkedIn, and also on LinkedIn there is an event, and on Meetup as well. One final thing though, I wonder if you have any closing thoughts or final thoughts that you'd like to finish this event before we finish the live streaming. Any of you would like to say or share something that you didn't say during the event?
I just want to invite everyone to be I think a descriptivist and not a prescriptivist. Listen to and look at and see how language is actually being used. Go sit outside with a coffee and just listen to the people as they walk by and see what amazing things they're saying and how they're using language, because there's so much happening outside that you will never pick up if you sit in an office with your own team all the time. Go outside, enjoy the world, man, and listen to language, because there's amazing things going on and people are just inventing new words left and right, and you want to get in on that.
Nothing more to add.
Yeah, that was a very great remark. If I could say something, is hire diversity, hire diverse people. That makes a huge difference in projects, in how things go and how diverse it can be. Like I said in the beginning, we are set in our own little world, in our own square, and nowadays at home. So if you can get in touch with people who are absolutely different from you, do it, appreciate it, bring it to the table, because that makes a difference.
Well, I think we can finish this up. We have so many thank you message for you. Like, thank you, great info. Like Gabriela said, like,
thank you.
This was really amazing. I'm leaving this meeting with so many ideas. And yeah, everybody's saying thank you. Thank you for the energy. And yeah, so thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Oops, my Alexa, I'm sorry.
That was timely.
Yeah. I would like to invite everybody to join the upcoming events. The next one it's next Thursday, 2 p.m. It's different than this one, which is 12 p.m. PDT. We're going to start 2 p.m. So the next one is going to be ethnic and racial. So we're going to talk a little bit about colors and discussions around that. Also, in the next week or in the following one, we're going to talk about culture. And last but not least, we're going to talk about accessibility. So again, diversity is a really broad word. This is just a starting conversation. We hope you can become an allyship as well and help us to create like a more diverse and inclusive conversational experiences. So I think this is it. I'm going to finish the live streaming, and thank you, girls. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.